Hello. It's so great to be here. And thanks for reviewing the last 10 years. It seems long on one side, but then really short on the other side, right? And I'm so happy and honored to be here to celebrate with you and reflect a little bit, but also challenge ourselves to see what we have to do together, to move forward. And so I have prepared a few remarks here. And what I will try to do is start out sharing with you why I believe we are in this multi-systemic crisis that has been unfolding for some years now. I also share where I think we are with respect to understanding that we have problems, but not understanding what to do about them. And I will share as I see the consciousness and awareness actually emerging, which will be necessary in order to do the changes that we need to do. So those are the three topics that I would like to share my thoughts on. So why are we in this multi-systemic crisis? We are at the beginning of a major, unprecedented global transformation. I think I need to stand in front of this, right? Not here. I'd like to move, but yeah. And this crisis started already. And we need to figure out, humanity needs to figure out how we can move from a very unsustainable path to a very sustainable path, not only economically, but also socially and environmentally and spiritually. And that transformation will require a massive change of all the systems that we're used to. And not only the education system, not only the medical system, the healthcare system, but more fundamentally, the economic system and the financial system. And those are the most stickiest systems on the planet. So COVID-19 has shown us sometimes brutally the design flaws of many of these systems. It has shown us that our medical system does not really work, that our global supply chains, particularly with respect to food, Lena, are not optimized for actually bringing good food to everybody. They're optimized to making the most profit for all the intermediaries. And it has shown us the structural and systemic design flaws that result in massive inequality, massive social injustice, and lack of time to address climate change in time in order not to create a very unlivable planet. But COVID-19 is not the root cause of what's going on in the economic system. It's a symptom of what's going on. It's a symptom of the unsustainability of our systems that we have created and that we are able to change if we so choose. So what is wrong with the system and what caused these major disruptions like COVID-19? Well, on the economic side, I think three main things come to my mind. One, not in priority order, is that these systems are based on the fallacy of eternal exponential growth. Now, you don't need to be a mathematician to understand that that's not a possibility on a planet with finite resources. And yet, we pretend that that's how it's going to work. Even very accomplished economists pretend that this is going to be how it goes. We all know from our personal lives, from our communities, from our families, that that is not an option. Now, maximizing financial profits at the expense of everything else is a consequence of that exponential growth fallacy. Now, economists, most of them, not all, but 95%, they conveniently call the issues, the systemic issues that we're grappling with as humanity, as externalities, external to the system. Injustice, poverty, the difficulty of managing climate change, externalities. And they pretend as if the markets would actually magically fix it. We cannot accept that anymore, right? So let's change that. What needs to happen to change that? Well, we need to change the economic system to put positive and negative externalities at the center of the system, not as an add-on, as CSR, as ESG. Those are all add-ons. We got to fundamentally change the system such that it is not managed according to an old, antiquated theory that's called modern portfolio theory on the investment side. It has nothing to do with modern, and has nothing to do with system change, has nothing to do with either positive or negative impact. And we don't have an alternative, so we're making it up as we go, because the establishment is thinking still that it will fix itself. Well, look around, it's not, right? So that's what's wrong with it. And so the system is reacting on that, including the financial system. What are they doing? They're inventing ESG, environmental, social, and governance criteria. Beautiful. ESG is better than non-ESG. Now, if you decide to make a lot of money investing in weapons, which is a really good investment on the financial side, then I bet that you would make even more money investing in a weapons manufacturer that has a great ESG score. Beautiful, diversified board, pays its employees a lot of money, and maybe even using green steel. But we could never invest in that, right? And so ESG is good. It's better than non-ESG. And if you would like to make a change on the systemic level, then you also need to go deeper on your investment portfolio. Otherwise, even if 100 trillion, all the money in the world, would move into ESG today, the rich would get richer, the financial institutions would make more profits, the social injustice would increase, and we would not mitigate climate change. So in the liquid portions of your portfolio, ESG is great. Push for ESG plus and ESG plus plus. However, if you also want to contribute to changing the systems, you need to go deeper than that. And so that's where I go into what we can do about this. Doing fine, yeah. So, like I said, when I go around these days, I don't have to convince many people that we are in trouble, that our systems don't work. Even the financial systems, they say, yes, it's not working. Where we differentiate, where we differ, is actually that they think that they're part of the solution, and I think they're part of the problem, which is great. Then we can have a debate, right? And say why that is. Innovator's dilemma is hard to overcome. And so, in my opinion, we need to radically rethink along the lines that I just mentioned before, the economic system, and move it towards what I would call deep impact. I was inspired by Arne Næss, a Norwegian, who in 1972 coined the terminology deep ecology. And I looked him up because it spoke to me. And I was not familiar with deep ecology. But when I read up, the way that he described deep ecology versus ecology was a non-anthropocentric view of ecology, a non-human-centric view of ecology, meaning that humanity is not at the top of the food chain. We do not have the authority to mess up everybody else just in order to satisfy our own needs. And that spoke to me, because when I reflect on deep impact, and I think about how do we invest, if we invest just with our brains, we will not be able to go deep because our brains are not deep. Our humanity is deep. And if you start analyzing what your brain serves you, and I have a brain that has a PhD in computer science from the TU Wien, right? And it knows how to segment, it knows how to partition, it knows all these things. And I observe it with curiosity and wonder, and yet I know that it's portraying all these images that are not really true. And if you go deeper, and you reflect on what's really true, then you discover your humanity. If you just invest with your brain, you will not be able to go deep. If you just invest with your heart, you will lose all your money, because compassion doesn't care about money, right? But if you invest with your soul, then by default, it's more than your ego, right? It's not just for your family, it's for humanity and the planet. So deep impact economy is based on systemic change with an awareness and a consciousness that actually realizes that we have the responsibility to do something about it, not just with our brains. We know what to do, actually. The principles of resiliency, circularity, regeneration, regionality, we all know that they need to be deployed, right, at the center of the economy. No question about that. So why do we not do it? Well, because of the awareness and the consciousness, because we are not courageous enough to demand change from our politicians, to elect different ones, to influence each other in saying, hey, are we really standing for this? And it's hard because our systems are all over us, right? And yet we have to do that in order to make a change. So if we just try to do systems change with our heads, with our brains, we will fail, predictably. If we do it in conjunction with our awareness and consciousness, we have a chance to actually do it. So the good news is that there's things happening on the consciousness and awareness side. The emergence, right? Which I've been waiting for some time. And so, I mean, I get to talk to a lot of very conscious people. And just in the last few weeks, you know, I got to help the Impact Hub Tirol, where I'm from, you know, get off the ground. Yes, 10 years later, you know, we'll see how they're going to do. I told them I look forward to the 10-year anniversary. I'm just coming here, and Zurich is doing its 10-year anniversary. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful community. And I was teaching at an Oxford executive training for executives from all over the world who want to know how to lead more consciously, right? Being a human as opposed to just a manager, and challenging their own assumptions about the enterprises that they manage. I love private gatherings where people really self-select to come. I was in South Tyrol at a biodynamic winery, and the entrepreneur there invited 25 of their colleagues who are also doing, you know, businesses and wanting to convert to biodynamic and all of that. Beautiful, right? So they're ready to do something, not just talk about it. I was attending a family office conference that added the Impact Day. Beautiful, wonderful. Let's do that more often. And next geners. I love to talk to next geners because they are going to be the ones who actually have to live with the mess that we leave them and try to get out of it, right? And that's going to be tough. And so now is the time to actually prepare for that and build the leadership and the consciousness to do that. And I'm talking to high-tech accelerators who made some money like I did in high-tech and want to move into impact. Finally, you know, I wish Silicon Valley would do that. They are now a little bit. So I went back to Silicon Valley 3 years ago, you know, to insert myself again. And now I'm working on the intersection of impact and technology and consciousness, right? And maybe later, Andreas and I can talk about what that has to do with the financial system, technology and consciousness, right? And I get to talk to female wealth owners who have a lot of money, right? And are wondering about what to do with that. So you see, all these are examples that it's happening all over. I don't know if it's going to happen fast enough. Nobody knows. That's beyond my brain to understand. But we got to do it. So, and within Tonic, you know, these circuits are happening, and we're co-creating that, you know, together. So these beautiful circuits, archetypal communication patterns of people who really care and who really are vulnerable in order to explore who they are, what their relationship is with wealth, what is enough, what their contribution to the existing system is, and how they benefit from the existing system. So those are difficult questions to ask, right? And unless we ask them, we will not be able to make progress. It has to hurt a little bit in order to make progress. And you're all here to do that too. So I'm going to wrap up now, doing fine on time, with two thoughts. One is going to be my brainy thought, and the other one is going to be my human thought. So the brainy thought is, can't resist that, is talk about systems one more time. So we know that systems change under pressure, but only under pressure. And if the pressure is not big enough, they don't change, right? And so I think that the pressure that humanity put on the biosphere with our fossil fuel energy forces the system on a planetary scale to respond with climate change. Now, once a system starts changing, it's very difficult to get it back. As a matter of fact, system change tells us it's impossible. You cannot recreate, the original state of the system. And so the system will eventually reach a new state of equilibrium, and that could be either very comfortable for us or very uncomfortable for us, right? And so it's up to us to see how we can adapt that. But the train left the station. There's nothing more that we can do except for actually steering it now. And that whole notion of going back to business as usual intellectually doesn't make sense, and from an emotional standpoint doesn't make sense at all, because who would want to go back to a system that created these injustices and inequalities in the first place? Why? I don't get that discussion, but I think that people might confuse their own comfortableness with talking about systems. And let me end with going back to the consciousness, since you cannot really do anything meaningful without being aware of it. So I believe that the expression of my life's work is a direct consequence of who I am, not who I think I am, which is my brain, right? But who I am. And so being detached from the outcome is different than thinking you are detached from the outcome. And that's a very, very important distinction. And that comes then with responsibility. I cannot escape the fact that if that is really true for me, that I have the responsibility of taking this change seriously and act on it. And I believe that humanity's trajectory is a direct expression of humanity's consciousness. And right now it doesn't look that great. It's up to us to change it, right? And to see what our contribution will be, such that humanity will be more aware of its destiny and that we become architects, co-creators, and co-imaginators of that beautiful trajectory, as opposed to letting things happen that we have set in motion that are negative. In conclusion, I want to just say that you know probably that we're in trouble. Many don't know what we need to do about that. I made the point, hopefully, that we all have the responsibility to help evolve our consciousness and awareness. And we all have the responsibility to act now with our life choices, our consumption, and our finances.